Next, I want to show you another powerful tool that is accessible to you from within the CLI. Let's say you're using Claude Code and you have a PR or a branch that you're working on, and I'm ready to commit this and push this as a new pull request. But before I do that, I just want to get a second opinion. Maybe I've been having some problems with Claude Code, and I feel like Codex has been able to handle these kinds of problems, or maybe Gemini, I don't think so, or even more importantly, GitHub Copilot. But instead of creating the PR, maybe I'm working on a branch or working on a project that other people are using, and I don't really want to go through that process of officially submitting a PR so that it notifies everyone who's watching. I can simply ask Claude Code or ask the agent that I'm using to call up in a non-interactive session. It's called a -p or a -p flag, a non-interactive shell session within this terminal, and have GitHub Copilot act as a sub-agent. So we went over sub-agents and how useful they can be, and some of the downsides of them, but you can actually call them in here. And so I can do that right now. Now, you do have to set up Copilot CLI or Codex CLI in the same way that you set up Claude Code CLI at the beginning. You'll have to install it. It's basically going to invoke it in the same way that you would. And of course, I tried to tell it. It says it doesn't have it set up. I say, yes, it does. It says, you're right. Let me check what's available. And maybe it doesn't, but we can go through that together for GitHub Copilot. This is GitHub's Copilot coding agent, which can review your code and create tasks on your repo. Let me create an agent task asking it to review the code on this branch. And there we go. So it's creating, and now Copilot will live as a sort of sub-agent and work on the task. And it can give you a PR review that you would normally have to do and trigger via the GitHub action. Now you can get that second opinion right here in your conversation before it even gets outside of the chat window. And it looks like it is getting the wrong one. So what I'm going to do, as I do with any time this thing is wrong, is I just go into the docs from GitHub and I paste the docs right into the chat there until it figures out that I'm right and it does what I want it to do. And this is perfect. Maybe I don't think I have it installed on this machine. So let's make sure that we do, and maybe we'll install it together. It wasn't installed, so let's install it. And you can see, since Node.js is already set up, it's going to install it via the Node Package Manager, or NPM, running this command, npm install -g GitHub Copilot installed. Now let me verify it works and run the code review agent. It's as simple as that. You just keep hammering away at things until you get what you want, or until you hit a wall that you really can't get around. You can see the prompt that Claude Code is passing to the Copilot agent for code review. And this -p means it's a non-interactive prompt mode, which is a one and done prompt mode. But we haven't gotten into that too much yet because we didn't discuss spawning these kind of interactive or CLI sessions in the background or in a headless mode. Right here, it's going to say that we need to authenticate first, and it has authenticated me. There we go. Because I'm already logged in to GitHub and authenticated to GitHub via Claude Code, it was able to use those same credentials, and now I am authenticated and working. But of course, as Claude often does, it just assumes that there's names for things or names for models that it doesn't actually have or doesn't exist, and you just kind of have to be a little patient with it. And here we go. We can see the comments from the GitHub CLI agent are already starting to come in. I'm sure there are going to be many. And then you can have Claude go ahead and just fix those issues and address those comments before anything even hits GitHub or triggers any kind of notification. And you can see here, we've got one real issue to fix. We've got some collisions on the same day reruns, and some minor observations is saying that it runs unconditionally, wastes 30 seconds on quiet days, probably intentional, the inner git diff, blah, 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 dead code. And I'm just going to say, instead of that, let's have Codex CLI take a look using the same -p invocation. And Codex is already installed, So it's going to run the help command just to see what commands are available. And again, just to head off any possible confusion, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Codex CLI documentation and go ahead and drop that in here. And I want you to notice that while all of this is happening, as I said earlier, the number of tokens and the amount of context that I've used for this conversation has stayed at 6%, because all of this stuff that's happening, all of this analysis that has happened from both GitHub, from the subagents, and from Codex is all happening in a separate, contained, and isolated context window. So none of that is counting against my token usage. Now, of course, I'm signed in with my Google subscription for these other tools, so I'm not getting charged API key or API token costs. So you have to be careful of that. If you're going to be using your API subscription, that's going to charge you per use. But if you have an account with either one or two or whatever, a number of these CLI agents, take advantage of them and play them off of each other, because oftentimes the one will catch something that the other one did not, and vice versa, and so forth. And now it's done. So now here our tokens are racking up because it's formulating its response to OpenAI's review or Codex review. And here we go. Codex came back with a sharper critique than Copilot did, and it found two high severity findings, saying the PR loop isn't actually fixed, that gating blocks, non-video updates, and it has open questions here from Codex. Alrighty, Codex finding number 2 is a big one, and we can say, you know, go and fix these. Do you want to fix them? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not now, but I just wanted to show you that these are two vulnerabilities or areas of interest that we should fix that Claude Code did not pick up on. Now, it may have picked up on it if we went back over it a few times. Claude Code has its own code review agent where you can call code review and have it do that. And I encourage you to do that. They're baked in. Install the official Claude Code plugins. They are baked into the tool itself, and they're actually really good. And it's going to go ahead and do its own version of this now. But this is just to illustrate the point that you aren't limited to just one tool if you know how to access the other ones and bring them into the conversation.